This is the first of 6 presentations that will give the participant a better understanding of how English learners are identified and the administrative actions that are required to make the identification process possible. The presentation broadly reviews the L identification process. After this presentation, participants will be able to 1. Review the English learner identification process, 2. Explain the role of the home language survey, 3. Review the types of information they can use to make a determination to either screen a student's English language proficiency or not. Let's dive right into the L identification process. The why behind employing an English language proficiency screener is to ultimately promote and create equity within our classrooms. The passage of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 was in an effort to give all Americans a full educational opportunity. The Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, signed into law in 2015, is a continuation of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act and ensures that we will continue to strive for equity across all our districts and schools. The use of the KWAP and screener seek to identify English language learners in a timely manner so districts and schools can provide effective language support services that improve the English language proficiency and academic achievement of all Ls. Equity should be at the center of every educational program within the schools. This graphic contrasts the difference between distributing supports equally among students and distributing supports equitably. This is a flowchart of the L identification process. From a student's initial enrollment, these various steps will be reviewed in the following slides. The first tool utilized in the L identification process is the Home Language Survey, or HLS. The Home Language Survey is a tool to identify potential students for English language proficiency screenings. The Home Language Survey asks the parent or guardian to answer 8 questions that ask about the child's typical language use. Administrators and school staff should use the responses given on the Home Language Survey to inform their next steps. If the responses given for all of the questions on the Home Language Survey are English only, then the student should not be considered to be an English learner. If a response is given with a language other than English, this should be a cue for staff to investigate further about the student's level of English proficiency. The next step after the Home Language Survey is given and a language other than English is a response given by the parent or guardian is to check the English Learner Management System to verify that the incoming student does not already have an L status in Idaho. If a student has an L status of L1, LE, or EW, the student is already identified as an L. If this is the case, they should be placed into the district's Language Instructional Educational Program, or LIEP. If a student has an L status of X1, X2, X3, X4, or FL, the student has already met the exit criteria to exit the student's LIEP. If the student's L status is blank, districts have 30 days to make an identification decision. So, if a parent gives a response of a language that is not English on the Home Language Survey, and the student does not have an L status in ELMS, districts should start to collect evidence to either make the case to screen the student's English proficiency level or not to. Districts and schools can collect a myriad of evidence to either support a decision to or a decision not to screen. Among other things, districts can follow up with their parents about the answers given on the Home Language Survey. They can place students into classes and observe how well the student performs within the 30 days. Professional learning communities, grade level teams, also can discuss strengths and areas for improvement and whether the student is struggling to comprehend during instruction within the content areas. Staff enrolling the student should look for previous records of access or English language proficiency assessment data that may inform the new school of the student's history. From all the evidence collected, the districts or school teams must make a decision on whether they believe the student's primary language is English or if the student may benefit from English language supports. If a school team makes a determination that the student can fully access grade level content without supports, the student does not need to be screened. Remember, this is based on the evidence collected and not just anecdotal evidence. If a school suspects that the student's dominant language is not English, the school teams will then move forward with giving a formal English language proficiency screener. Second semester grade 1 through grade 12 students will be administered the WITA screener, while kindergarten and first semester grade 1 students will complete the kindergarten WAPT screener to determine the student's eligibility. So based on the results of the screener, the student is either identified as an English learner by not reaching the screen out criteria, or the student reaches the screen out criteria, which verifies that the student has the necessary English proficiency skills needed to access grade level content. Remember that regardless of whether a student reached this exit criteria, all screener information will be input into ELMS by a school administrator. If the student does not meet the screen out criteria, they will need to participate in an annual English language proficiency assessment until they reach the defined exit criteria.